On this episode of Motorsport recently, we discussed the Red Bull Honda deal. What does this mean for the drivers' market and the Red Bull Racing team? Corvette are going to be racing at the Shanghai 6 Hours. What's the story there? And David Land will be racing for real. And I'm basically making up for lost time in this episode. This is Triple Crown Racing. Let's get into it. So, I was planning to release the Le Mans special earlier, but you can blame school for the fact that it didn't come out over the weekend. Also, a lot happened since Le Mans, and a lot of the news was too good not to cover on this channel, so I decided to make a quick little video to cover all the stuff that's happened. This isn't this week's episode. There's going to be a better episode at the end of this week. This is just all of last week's stuff, and I will definitely record a new one. Probably. So it finally happened. After 4 years of turmoil, Red Bull have ditched Renault and are going to start using Honda engines for 2019. And the internet had a field day with it. So Red Bull are in uncertain times. Will they stop receiving upgrades for the Renault engine? Will the Honda be good in the back of the Red Bull? And is this the excuse that Daniel Ricciardo needs to go to Mercedes or Ferrari? Is this a good move for Red Bull? Well, the internet's answer to this was maybe, no, yes, no. Well, screw you, internet. I disagree. I'm not sure if Red Bull are going to stop receiving upgrades and factory updates for their Renault engine. Maybe Renault will stop giving them updates to better themselves. Maybe they will keep giving them updates. If they stop giving them updates, that would be very bad for Red Bull, because that would basically mark the end for Ricciardo's title challenge. Mercedes and Ferrari would streak off into the distance and leave Red Bull in the dust. Who knows, maybe they will keep giving them upgrades. I really hope they do. Will the Honda be good in the back of the Red Bull? The internet says no, as they blame Honda for McLaren's lack of success between the years of 2015, 16 and 17, which is dumb because not only are Toro Rosso now doing fundamentally better than McLaren last year, but McLaren are slow even with the Renault engine. Saying that Red Bull will suck with the Honda engine because of McLaren's track record is just dumb, because remember, McLaren haven't won a race in 6 years, even when they did have a Mercedes engine. And I think Red Bull are actually going to work well with the Honda engine, because not only will they have factory support, but they have been able to do stuff with the Renault engine despite it not being the best engine on the field, which is really impressive. And they're going to have factory support now, which will benefit the team greatly, I think. Is this the excuse that Daniel Ricciardo needs to leave Red Bull? No, Daniel Ricciardo could leave Red Bull if they failed him
for the last time.
Yes, Red Bull may fail him this year, but where is he going to go? Mercedes and Ferrari are most likely going to pick people from within their own stable, and he's not going to go to a midfield team or a backmarker team, which basically only leaves McLaren and Renault as his only other options. The internet went mad last week when Daniel Ricciardo was supposedly offered $20 million by McLaren, but that turned out to not even be true. So that only leaves Renault. The only way he's ever going to go back to, he's ever going to go to Renault is if Sainz decides to go back to the Red Bull stable, but I don't think Renault is where he'd want to be anyway. So that only leaves Red Bull. So Ricciardo probably won't leave Red Bull because he has no other option. People have said for a long time that Ricciardo was the most powerful man in the driver market. I don't see that power anywhere. The only place where I currently see power in the driver market is up at Mercedes and Ferrari. They have all the power. Daniel Ricciardo has no power whatsoever. Is this a good move for Red Bull? In the long run, very possibly. In the short term, definitely not, because rest in peace Daniel Ricciardo's title challenge if they stop receiving upgrades, because Mercedes and Ferrari will streak off into the distance in terms of development, leaving Red Bull in the dust. Anyway, I hope that doesn't happen, because I quite like this 3-horse race for the championship. Now I miss Rosberg. Corvette have decided to enter one car into the 6 hours of Shanghai, which didn't make a lot of sense to me until I did some research. Of all the endurance races that the Corvette C7R GTLM car is eligible for, why Shanghai? There are so many other American endurance races coming up, including Petit Le Mans and the 6 hours of the Glen. Even in terms of the WEC are returning to Shanghai Sebring next year, so why not race it there? Of all the races on the WEC calendar, why pick Shanghai? Well, here's why. Chevrolet sales are doing fantastic in China, and they are only growing. In January of 2018, they had a year-on-year increase of 14.5%. Chevrolet's own Chinese brand Baojun sales jumped by 36%. Not only that, but at the Guangzhou Motor Show last year, Chevrolet announced that they were going to be introducing their Redline models into the Chinese domestic market, and a lot of people in China were interested in those cars, and a lot of people want to buy them. So that's why they're racing a Redline liveried Corvette C7R at Shanghai, because they're marketing their Redline range at Shanghai, because they want to expand their market in China. Anyway, Corvette haven't really announced anything else other than showing off their livery. They haven't announced a driver lineup for the race, but it will probably be one of their 2 lineups for the North American Endurance Championship. Anyway, that's cool. More the merrier in the GTE class. I'll leave an article in the description below with more info on that.
Hey, Cowcat!
So I know this happened more this week, but I still want to talk about it. It's some really good news that I'm really happy about. From July 5th to 8th in the US time, because I don't know time zones, because time zones are broken, IndyCar expert and one of my personal favourite YouTubers, David Land, will have the chance to actually race for real at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The event is called the Battle at the Brickyard, and he will be racing a go-kart in the Briggs Regular and the Briggs Heavy classes at that event. How this came about is he knows one of the drivers from a family-owned karting team called Cuthbertson Racing, and his personal team, so his sort of one-man team, it's like a McLaren Andretti Autosport deal, is going to be called Land Speed with Cuthbertson Racing. Anyways, David, if you by some miracle are watching this, I have to say no one deserves it more than you, and I hope to one day follow in your footsteps. Also, can we be mates? I do have one question though for anyone watching this. Should I pay $50 US to have a Triple Crown Racing logo on the side of the kart? Because David Land said in one of his videos that if you paid more than $50, that you would get your name on the side of the car, and I'm assuming that means sponsorship. I'd love to hear your feedback, unless you say no, because I still want to do it anyway. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of Motorsport Recently. Like I said, I'm going to leave an article of the Corvette thing in the description. Tell me in the comments if you think it's worth paying to get my logo on the side of David Land's go-kart for the Battle at the Brickyard. Tell me if you like this new format of me talking to the camera instead of just pictures. Hang on, did I just reveal my face?